Hello everyone, we're doing something different and new and cool.
If you're listening to this episode before March 2024, we are doing a new special, spectacular award show that has nothing to do with other award shows also happening in March. We are celebrating all 7 Child's Play films. We have got 15 categories on our Twitter at CHUCKYVISION. Pinned will be a tweet linking to the poll, the online poll. Put your votes in. Deadline is TBA, but it'll be late February.
So Dev's put loads of fucking effort into this. I've put no effort. So please do join in. Please take part. Tell us what you think at CHUCKYVISION on Twitter.
Make your voice matter. We will factually figure out what is the best Chucky movie.
Factually.
We made this.
Hello and welcome to CHUCKYVISION, the podcast about Child's Play, Chucky, killer dolls, and queerness, horror, whatever we want that's vaguely linked to Chucky, really. And we're here on the We Made This podcast network. My name's Mark Adams and I am your host. And with me, as usual, is my co-host, Dev Elson. Hello, Dev.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
So we've got a special episode that we weren't planning on doing, but an opportunity fell into our lap. We're looking at the new horror film on Screambox. It's called Here for Blood. And the link to Chucky is that Michael Therriault is in it, who was 3 characters over a film and 2 series of Chucky. He played Dr. Foley, he played Nathan Cross, and he plays... He's actually still alive currently, playing the vice president.
Well, alive so far.
Yeah,
he wouldn't give us any spoilers, but him and Devon Sauer working together, that can't be great.
No. But yeah, as Dev has alluded to, the reason why we're looking at Here for Blood, it is the latest film starring Michael Therriault, and we were approached by Screambox to interview him regarding Here for Blood and, of course, Chucky as well. Obviously, we jumped at that, and if you've not listened to that episode, we dropped it a few days ago. Get it listened to, it's brilliant, and Michael was a fantastic guest.
Yes, absolutely. So genuine, so lovely. He was just so happy to talk about everything. You know, he's a real delight, and he's great. I think we made it very clear that I think he's a highlight in a series full of highlights, which is the Chucky universe. I was excited when I saw him come back for season 3. I'm always happy to see him work, and yeah, he's great in this movie.
I think what was really kind about Michael was that he was clearly on to promote Here for Blood, but boy, did he want to talk about Chucky to us. He knew our background, he knew who we were, and, you know, he did promote the film he was on, but he had a massive chat about Chucky too, and we were kind of trying to get him to talk more about Here for Blood at one point because he got so excited about Chucky.
Yeah, Chucky was a much bigger universe, so there were more questions, but full disclosure, if you listen to that full interview and you think, oh, we didn't ask as many questions about Here for Blood, that is not because of a lack of enthusiasm at all on our side. It's we're going to be enthusiastic about this movie right now. We didn't have to do this episode. They never asked for us to do a separate episode on the movie, but we're going to because it's a really fun time.
Well, we appreciated them giving us a screener. We appreciated them putting us in touch with Michael, but also, honestly, if it had been crap, we'd have just kept our gob shut. But spoiler alert, we enjoyed it. This is your spoiler alert. We are going to talk about it in general for a few minutes, but when I throw in the little CHUCKYVISION theme kind of splitty thing, there's a word for it, Dev. What's it called?
Interstitial?
maybe I was going to go with something else, but yes, let's say interstitial. I've never heard that word. When I put in the interstitial, you know that if you haven't seen the film, maybe you should go and see it.
And do check it out. Yes, we got the screener because we got this ahead of its release date, which was February 9th. But now we can say the movie is out now. It is in select theatres. It's available on digital video on demand, and it's also available on Screambox. Screambox is a streaming service. You can get that on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Prime Video, Roku, YouTube, Samsung, Comcast, Cox, and Screambox.com. It's very available, this movie. I know it is available in the UK. I did check that. I think we've looked at Screambox before. We looked at maybe a movie that was on Screambox. We definitely... I remember you talking about, I think you saw the Terrifier movies. Both Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2 are available on Screambox.
Yeah, that's how I first came into touch with Screambox, actually, because I heard the hype about Terrifier and couldn't bloody find it anywhere.
Part of the press packet here, which says, oh, there's other movies coming. But then I went onto their Twitter, I followed their Twitter account, and this is just the movies coming to Screambox in February. So Haver Blood is the latest Screambox original to grace the big screen, joining such cult classics as Onyx the Fortuitous and The Talisman of Souls, The Outwaters, and Terrifier 2. That's the press packet. Over on Twitter, I looked at the full list of films coming just this month in February, and some of these titles, these are only the tip of the iceberg, but Three-Headed Shark Attack.
That sounds great. Is there a Chucky actor in it? I want to review it.
I don't think there is a Chucky actor in it, but Danny Trejo's in it.
I love Danny Trejo.
Creepy Tales of Pizza and Gore.
Good.
Death of the Dead.
Good.
Disco Path.
Good.
Everybody Dies by the End.
Good.
Which is, I like that. Mimicry Freaks.
These all sound great.
Nuns, an Italian horror story. Psycho Paul's Film Festival.
Brilliant.
And this might be your favourite. I like this one. LGBT, Lethal Gay Butcher of Terror.
We can review that. That's the gay link. You know, we do queer romance stuff. There's a link. Let's get it watched.
We definitely could look at some of these other Screambox films, but we are here to focus on the one that they sent us, which is Here for Blood. So I'll give them the premise they gave us. Struggling to make ends meet, a rowdy pro wrestler agrees to babysit a precocious 10-year-old girl. What starts off as a laid-back night of junk food and video games quickly spirals into bloody chaos as the secluded home is invaded by a cult of mask-wearing maniacs. It's a pretty simple, cool setup, and it pays off.
It's very much a kind of standard horror film, but we've put a little twisty twist on it. And do you know what? Sometimes you just want a horror film that's got a little twisty twist on it.
Yeah, as they say, it's a big throwback to like 80s and 90s, like VHS horrors that you'd find in the video store. It's not like a modern horror. It's just a really fun retro horror.
I'd agree with that. I was going to say it's a guilty pleasure, but I don't ever feel guilt for my pleasure. So it's just a horror fan's bread, almost like a horror fan's bread and butter. You can just sit there and know you're going to get a proper horror film with some wrestling.
A guilty pleasure is often appointed to a film that doesn't have the best repertoire with actual critics, legitimate critics, but over on Rotten Tomatoes, this has an 88%.
Are you saying we're not legitimate critics, Devon? We've interviewed Michael Therriault, we're big time now.
But you know what I mean.
Do.
This is a movie. It's a guilty pleasure for horror fans, but that's it. But yeah, 88%. This is a legitimate good movie.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I was excited for it anyway. Horror film and wrestling, two of my favourite things. And it didn't disappoint. And it's great fun, and if you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it before we spoil it for you.
Yes. So before we spoil it, we'll go through it sort of scene by scene, or sequence by sequence. Let's get into it.
So, Here for Blood was released this month. And For those of you that aren't listening this month, that is February 2024 on Screambox. And as Dev has said, it has had really good reviews, and this is also going to be a really good review. Thank you to Screambox for the screener, and yeah, let's get into it. It starts with Evil Sting.
I was trying to place what he reminded me of. Evil Sting, yeah.
I think it's sort of like a cross between Sting from current Sting in AEW, but for me it's like 90s Sting in WCW. And Michael Myers.
Yeah, a little bit of the Crow, you know.
He is a bit crowy as well, yes.
It's a cool look. The mask, but he's also shirtless. And he's got, like, the leather jacket on. I like that combo. A lot of, there's so many new horror movies out and so many slashers, and they're always trying to design new masks. But I like the simple remix of he's got the mask, but he doesn't have a shirt on.
And I think it was really fun that it was heavily suggested that this would be like the solo killer, like Michael Myers, like Freddy, like Chucky. That he would be the main bad guy, and you'd learn a little bit more about him as the film went on. And it starts with a big kill by this character. But it does twist on that later on, and he's just one of a group of killers who are in a cult. And I really like that, because I was like, oh, he's not the kind of main protagonist, kills everyone until he gets to the final girl character I was expecting him to be. And I thought that was, a nice little bit of innovation.
Yeah, no, quite early on, there's a scene where you don't see his face, but he's at home. And I think what is the movie he's watching? He's watching Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex is great.
Yeah.
Have you seen Tammy and the T-Rex?
Of course, that's why I'm referencing it. It was an insane reference to put in this movie.
Mate, I actually reviewed Tammy and T-Rex on Super Tap Film Club a while back when I was working on that podcast.
That is Super Tap.
I'll put a link to that on our socials, because I got so excited about Tammy and the T-Rex. Because why wouldn't you get excited about a film that's got a girl called Tammy who's got a mate who's a T-Rex?
So, the killer is watching Tammy the T-Rex, impeccable taste, and he gets a phone call, and they're like, we need to hire you again, and he opens his wardrobe. I like that he's got the lighting inside the wardrobe just to backlight his cool costume, his killer costume, and like you say, that's a cool development of this character where he could have just been, a slasher. Just some lone wolf out there. But I like the early world building and the development of what the hell is going on. Like, there's more to this film than we first anticipated.
Then we get some wrestling, and I can confirm, though I've not worked with him, Tyson Dukes is a real wrestler, and with my moderately capable knowledge of wrestling, that the wrestling is pretty good, and Sean Roberts has clearly taken some time to get properly trained in wrestling, and it looks really good. I didn't recognise the commentators, and I was a little bit cross because I thought I probably should have done. And what I did question was the fact that it was accurate that a promoter will stiff you and pay you less than you might expect, but they build it as like a legitimate fight. This is 2023, the game's up. We all know that it's predetermined. I thought that was an odd choice.
I don't know if it was billed as a real fight. I think it was just billed as it's the mix. It looks exciting. I thought it was really well done. I thought if they're gonna make the main character a wrestler, they start the match. They start the movie with a wrestling match, and it's done under the credits. I thought it was a really well done match. As you say, Sean Roberts is a big guy. I don't know if he's done former wrestling. He is an actor. He's a professional actor. He was in the Resident Evil movies. Did you see any of those?
I haven't. I think, didn't they have Mila Jovovich in at one point?
Yeah. She was the main lead.
I've seen the one where she kicks a dog.
That's the first one, I think.
Because she does like this kind of like Chun-Li rebound kick, and it kicks a dog in the face. And I was like, that's cool, but you kicked a dog, you bitch.
She does that in a couple films.
Good.
I should say the zombie dogs, they're not just dogs.
I couldn't kick a zombie dog.
But no, Sean Roberts is in the later few movies as Albert Wesker, the sort of titular villain of the Resident Evil series, and he's really fun in those movies. Like, he has he's got a real charisma to him, and that comes across in the Resident Evil movies. He's always smirking, he's always got a real smug look on him, and it comes across in this. Like, he definitely seems to know what he's doing in the ring. And then he's also like a good actor as well in the rest of it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, actually. He's very good at making the character of a big lug with his heart in the right place lovable and relatable, which, you know, sometimes when you are a massive guy, if you're a skinny nerd watching that, you might struggle to engage with that character, but I didn't feel like that with this character. I thought that he did a really good job there. I do also want to talk about, while we're still talking about the wrestling, how it does a really good job of depicting how wrestling takes over your life and affects your relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not even a wrestler, I'm just a ring announcer, but bloody hell, that was a deep cut. That one, I felt seen.
This is not the WWE or AEW, this is not the big leagues. This is very much indie wrestler, you know, in his local town, just scraping by with what money he can.
Yeah, and it was really fun. You know, I work in wrestling, I also work a lot of freelance jobs, and it felt like, you know, when you have a bad month, you are on like microwave meals and super cheap to everything that month. And yeah, it was depicted really, really well. And again, gave us a lot of sympathy for this character early on that, again, could have been difficult to get with like such an attractive, beefy geezer as your, well, I guess your final girl.
Early on, you get a good idea of the writing by James Roberts and also the acting from Sean Roberts. There is some nuance in it, and it's not just... You can tell from some indie films, you know, some low-budget horror films where it's just a scene is just, you know, a scene, and they don't quite know what to put in the scene. But, like, even in this moment of he's down on his luck, you still get the element of him, like, bringing it up, that he's like, this isn't enough money. Like, I paid more money for gas just to get here. But then he relents. He's like, fine, I'll see you next time. And it, like, it establishes and it gets re-established in a few scenes that the main character, Tom O'Bannon, he's a big guy, he's a strong guy, but more than anything, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he lets things pass. He's willing to give people a second chance. And that comes across in the acting, comes across in the writing. It just fleshes him out as a character. You know, Tom O'Bannon could have just been a generic badass, but he has this, like, genuine niceness to him.
Yeah.
That makes him feel much more like a person.
Much more fleshed out character than you might expect for a big lughead.
And it works for the film as well, because later on, if he was just a generic badass, then he would just kill everyone, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But the fact that he's a nice guy prolongs things in a logical way.
Yeah, and you also, quite early on, establish how strong his relationship is with his girlfriend. It's really nicely done, and it feels very real, and it's not perfect, but they clearly have huge feelings for each other, and it just felt like a real relationship rather than some of the shallow stuff you might see in the kind of film this actually emulates, you know?
Like you said then, yeah, it's like an 80s throwback, but it's not a bad throwback. It's not superficial. You know, in that that dialogue scene in Phoebe's apartment, just to get them across and establish their characters. You know, they talk about like the missing person, which is the prologue we saw. You know, there's some jokes about wrestling with the underwear / trunks, you know, like what they call it. And then, you know, there's the setup, the establishment of him having to babysit. But then, like, you have some comedy with it, of him not wanting to look like a creep. So they're not just talking for the sake of talking. They are like they're talking about stuff. It's entertaining to watch, which seems like such a fundamental thing to say, but it, like, the scenes actually have meaning, which is quite special thing when you're watching a low-budget horror movie like this.
Yeah. And then at 13 minutes and 40, we get what we came here for. We get Michael Therriault. He arrives and he's this lovely dad, and you see him for 5 minutes. And I was like, fuck, that's not it. They've asked us to interview Michael Therriault, and he's in this film for 5 minutes.
Yeah, gladly he comes back, though.
He does.
He comes back in a big way. Yeah, I had the exact same thought when I watched it, and he came and went. And I was like, well, that was a nice performance. You know, he was a nice dad. And the wife was also nice, but then he left. I was like, no, they've got to come back at some point and like join in the fray, you know, in the chaos later on. And yeah, luckily they do.
Yeah, and in my notes, I've written massive American houses. Now, if you listen to our interview with Michael Therriault, all this time, I have been bemoaning the gigantic houses of our American friends. And not once have our American friends corrected me and said, we don't have gigantic houses. It's just in film so that we can get the film crew in. I feel kind of dumb.
Well, that was definitely an interesting talk because, yeah, and in some cases, that's definitely the case, you know, like Friends, you know, their apartment is insanely huge. It's spacious just for the sake of being spacious. It makes no sense why those people would have such a huge apartment. But then we talked about it with this movie, and this movie is largely set on location. I believe from what I understood him saying, that they didn't even have multiple houses. Like, the exterior and interior of this house, it's just one house. And, like, immediately, I thought this was a really cool location for the movie. I really dug the outside look. You know, the porch roofing going all the way around the house. Like, it was a really nice-looking house. And then, yeah, as Michael puts it, they really make a mess of the inside of the house.
Yeah. So, very quickly, once we've got our character in the location he needs to be, there is a quick death, and it is the pizza guy who recognised him as a famous wrestler. And, yeah, nice neck death.
It was a good death, a real good neck slice. Again, that, you know, the outside lighting and stuff. Again, just fundamental basics of movie making. You know, so many of these low budget horror films are so dark because they're just like, oh, we just get the actors, we get a house, and we get the cameras, and let's go. And it's like, no, you can't just film like that. You need proper lighting off camera to light the scene. It can't be lit with, you know, actual lights in the house. And like the outside, you know, this outside shot of him going to his car, but then seeing the killer and going over to the shed, like it was lit really nice. You know, I definitely don't care about artificial lighting when people say, oh, why was the outside, it's the middle of the night, why was it lit so brightly? It's like, it's the lighting. Like, who cares where it came from?
Yeah.
As long as I can see what's happening. And, you know, what's happening is a pizza guy getting his throat slit, which is cool.
R.I.P. pizza guy.
And he was a nice guy, because let's not overlook even the minor character building of he could have been a pizza guy that just comes in and then comes out, but, you know, he recognizes Tom. He knows he's a wrestler. We get some nice banter between them. I remember going to you, and I was like, but I paused the movie when the pizza guy asked for his photo, and then Tom went, sure, you got $5? And I paused the movie, and I went to you like, oh my god, these guys actually know wrestling, because that's every goddamn indie wrestler.
Well, you know,
money.
Everybody's got to make their money, and
everyone's got to make money.
I've been in that situation where I've been walking around with a friend who's a wrestler, and they get recognised by someone. Can I have a photo? And my favourite is, can you take the photo? I'm a fucking ring announcer. You should want a photo with me too, you cheeky fuck. Not that I'm jealous of my friends being actually famous. I am massively jealous of my friends being actually famous.
But that is the thing. In the world of wrestling, you will get a lot of photos, and then you will get a lot of situations where you have to pay for stuff. But then, how happy I was when I unpaused the movie, and he said he's just fucking with him.
Yeah.
And that's nice. That just solidifies Tom as an all-round nice guy. And, you know, he was really nice to the pizza guy. Even when the pizza... I don't know, Mark, is this a thing fans also do? I have to imagine it is, where fans are like, look, I've been working out, I want to be a wrestler, and then they make the wrestler like touch their muscles.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that pizza guy had some arms on him.
I mean, yes.
He could have had a bright indie wrestling future.
But he's dead. He got his neck slashed in a dead good death.
If it wasn't for the goddamn stink killer.
Good. And then we get some really nice kind of relationship building between Tom and Grace. And I really felt like this kind of like big lug with the cute kid really felt like this relationship worked, how she kind of like, she was like ignoring him, but he was persevering. And yeah, it just felt really natural and probably how I'd have handled a precocious little girl. Yeah,
I like the setup. He's a nice guy, but he can, for a big guy, for a big wrestler, we saw him like, really smacking the other wrestler around because it's part of the performance. But then he's really gentle with Phoebe and he's really gentle with Grace as well. And I like that little quietness, the sequence of the fact that he doesn't quite know how to talk to her, and she's like sort of introverted. She's just playing on a video game. But then, I like that doesn't develop into a conflict. They don't hate each other, and then over the course of the movie, learn to like each other. They once they start talking, they do actually like each other. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, she's just a nice kid who gets that he's making an effort and kind of like gives him a chance for it. And that just felt really natural and dynamic and probably how things work with most kids.
Yeah, I think this is a really good edge to the character of Tom that I really liked. He has some really funny lines in this, which he reminds me, and I imagine since it's a throwback, the biggest influence is probably Big Trouble in Little China. Like, Tom O'Bannon he's echoes of Jack Burton in that film. Tom isn't like, he's not quite stupid and he's not quite mean. Like, there's funny lines in it where he meets Grace for the first time with the parents and she just kind of ignores him because she's on a video game. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with her, right? Like a peanut allergy. Which, like, the joke there, is he's saying, oh, is there something wrong with her? But, like, he doesn't deliver it in, like, a cool guy way or, like, a mocking way. Like, he seems very genuine when he's asking that. Like, he didn't realize it sounded offensive.
Yeah, and I think he kind of really comes across as foot in the mouth rather than horrid. And, we've all been there, put our foot in the mouth.
But then I think that's what the funniest part is, that it's foot in the mouth, but then he doesn't even really acknowledge that. He just moves on.
Yeah.
Which is really funny how straight he plays it.
And then we get the creepy-ass ladder. We'll come back to that because it was creepy as fuck. I was very impressed. And then we get a brilliant fucking fight scene. This was great. The wrestling against knife fighter thing. And the face horror was great. We like face horror as Chucky fans. And the knife in the foot is gruesome as fuck.
Yeah, some really good fighting here. Yeah, we've got the killers who have emerged from the attic. Gives me shades of Black Christmas, that. It's creepy that we see the killer on the outside, but it's not like an invasion movie. They're already in the house, which is really fun. And, again, it keeps you on your toes, what this film's going for. And then, yeah, Tom has two early encounters with these killers. And is this a thing? Are most wrestlers unfazed when a knife-wielding maniac approaches them? Because Tom didn't give that guy the light of day.
I mean, he was braver than I would have been facing a knife-wielding crazy bastard. And I do not want that foot injury. Absolutely not.
No, I really appreciated that because he was unfazed, which is funny for the first guy, and that's a humorous situation. But then they do establish that Tom isn't invulnerable. He's not indestructible. He gets into a fight. The bad guy gets one good opportunity, and he stabs him in the foot, and it's bloody and it's painful, and Tom is in pain, and he struggles to get the knife out. That's good establishment. Because. Even, as cool as Bruce Campbell becomes in later Evil Dead movies and the series and stuff, a part of his charm is that he gets his ass kicked so much. So, these horror characters like Tom and Jack Burton and stuff, we want to see them get their ass kicked as well. And that's the same thing in wrestling. Yeah, it's not just a total squash match. Tom does take his licks as well.
Yeah. So we then meet Phoebe's mates, and they are dicks. This is what we need in a horror film. So far, we've had nothing but likeable characters. Grace is likeable, Phoebe's likeable, Tom is likeable. Very briefly, Gil was likeable, but we'll come back to that.
Well, we do get a line of dialogue where Grace says that Gil's an asshole. And I remember hearing that thinking, oh, Michael's going to come back if he's an asshole.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I really disliked Phoebe's mates, and I was delighted at Mike's early death. That was a very much a Mark got what he wanted in a horror film moment, and it was a very satisfying death, and the he's not dead thing was funny as fuck.
Yeah, that whole sequence is so good when the character of Mike is just getting the ever-living shit stabbed out of him.
Yeah, fuck Mike.
And we have to go inside. He's dead. He's not dead. No, he's definitely dead. Which is fair. You know, again, Tom isn't being a dick. There's no saving Michael. No. He was stabbed like 40 times.
And I want to talk about... Now, I don't know the character's name, so I've gone for Burnface Guy.
That's true. I didn't think the killers were... The killers are probably given names in the credits, probably given cool names, but yeah, they're not really established as characters under the masks.
Yeah, but Burnface Guy felt very much like a trauma character to me.
Yes.
So in trauma films, you tend to get one fucker who just has the worst day. And it wasn't just that either. I thought that, like, when he squeezed his face and ick came out, that felt like quite trauma-y makeup as well.
Yeah,
it just really reminded me of, like, 80s trauma. And maybe even to the point where I wonder if it was an homage.
I imagine Daniel Torres and James Roberts love trauma. I mean, if they're doing an 80s throwback, then of course they're into it. Again, that's that kind of character where Tom O'Bannon is sort of similar to like a Toxie. You know, Toxie's a big, huge monster, but he's also a nice guy. Toxie is like the nicest guy.
Yeah. We then have an interesting moral dilemma conversation where she's like, you can't kill him. And then he pisses her off. She says, okay, bash him. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I like how the writer is quite smart about prolonging this film. You know, because he does that with the guy that stabs him in the foot, you know. Any other movie, stab him back, kill him, you know, get rid of him. And big films will do this where he'll knock the guy out and then they'll just walk away. And they'll be like, oh, he's knocked out, don't worry, he's done for. But then, of course, you know, he gets up and then, you know, keeps going. I like that he knocks one of the guys out and then he ties him up. And he's like, well, he's going to get arrested. He's going to go away for a long time because he tried to murder us. I like that Tom is a rational human being, even though they're being attacked by, you know, mask-wearing maniacs. Like, he wants to put these people away in jail, which is the normal thing someone would do.
I mean, you do say that. He does then kill someone with a chop and ruin the cookies, and then he kills someone with an elbow drop.
True, but like that is when the reveal, the turn in the movie comes where magic is introduced. So again, he's not really just killing human beings. He's like, now we know there's something up to him. Like up until this point, he was going by the logic of these guys are sex perverts, which I really loved. And again, he's just Sean Roberts, just matter of fact dialogue. I just love the way he delivers it, where he's like, we are under attack by a gang of sex perverts. Nothing they said even implied that, but that's where his brain goes, that they must be sex perverts.
Hipster assholes.
Exactly. And then they become demonic sex perverts. And that's when you can bring out the cleaver and you can really start smashing them.
Yeah, and this does very quickly descend into beautiful batshittery. But before we talk about the head, I want to talk about Gil's punch. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. There's nothing quite as fun as the wimpy character in these kind of things. And yeah, then the knife. Oh, you stabbed me. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, we get the return of the parents of Gil and Bob. And a nice reveal, a nice twist, turns out. Of course, they are the ones who hired these killers. Of course, that's why the killers are up in the attic, because they put the killers up there. It's all this elaborate satanic ritual. And really good reveal from the both of them. They are kind of like a genuine evil, in a sense, even though Michael plays it as a buffoon. Like, it's still very sinister, the way they talk about how this is for the greater good. You know, like, this is all going to work out in the end. Like, they believe they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, there's a weird, fun kind of creepiness to it, I think.
Yeah, because in a way they genuinely do believe they're doing the right thing, because they think once they all die in this ritual, they're going to go into, like, eternal paradise. And from their warped logic, it's like, why wouldn't you want that?
And it's all very culty, and I feel like they get the kind of absolute kind of focus and delusion and refusal to listen to bloody anything of people that end up in cults. And it's almost too realistic, kind of sad when you think about it too much.
Yeah, it's again why this film works as well as it does. It could be so much more shallow and superficial, but when we have quite a few moments of we have quite a few down moments of, you know, peaceful time between the attacks, and in another film, in a clumsier film, those moments would have been obvious padding. They would have been so boring, characters just talking about nothing. But, you know, the actors are charming and the dialogue is funny, and then we have these scenes where, you know, the characters are built up, and it's like, you know, I like the moments between Barb and Gil, where they're talking about this and giving exposition, but in a believable way, where, you know, you get their side of it. And like I say, they're definitely doing the bad thing, but they believe it's the good thing, and you still have quite a bit of mystery. You know, we don't really learn who their friends are, the guys in the masks, but that's also a good thing, that it's like there's still some mystery to these guys.
Yeah, but what the fuck is the head, Dev?
Well, the head is sort of explained. So we do get a severed head. It's more of a skull. They call it a head. It's basically a skull with an eyeball in it, in the attic. And then, crazily enough, it's revealed that the head can talk, and it's still alive. This was apparently the first guy who discovered immortality through this satanic ritual. And immortality does not mean indestructible, so he has withered down to just a head. The head is also voiced by Twisted Sisters Dee Snider.
Brilliant. I didn't clock that.
Yeah, that's one of the selling points, and it's pretty amazing, given that the limited dialogue we get is like, feed me. It's just eternally hungry for flesh.
Yeah. I mean, this is just fun batshittery at this point. I'd expected a one baddie thing, a Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. And then this head turns up out of fucking nowhere. And I'm like, great, good.
Yeah, there really is quite a lot going. It's a layered film that we have multiple killers. There's a satanic ritual in the barn outside. The parents are in on it. There's also a severed head that is encouraging them to do these rituals. There's a lot going on. And also the fact that the main guy is a wrestler. Like, it doesn't innately tie into his career. It doesn't tie into, like, his job or anything. He just happens to be a wrestler, and that gets him through it, because he can then wrestle these demons.
Yeah. And but before we get to that, we do get a wonderful argument between Gil and Barb. I loved that, because it's the kind of petty argument a couple would have, but it's about a satanic ritual. And I love shit like that, when it's the norm during the extraordinary. And I really popped for that. That was my kind of humour.
Yeah, that's a really, really funny scene. And it's the little bits of dialogue that fill out the film and make it so much smoother. Just the fact that, you know, it could have been just a moment when Grace decides to fight back, and, you know, she realizes her parents are bad, and so she stabs Gil in the leg. And I just love that becomes a through line. Where every time he's in a scene afterwards, he's always limping in and out of the scene. He's always slightly behind, and he's always complaining that he has to go back to the house and go back to the barn because he's got a stabbed leg and he can't walk as fast.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. He's just so wimpy, and I think you don't really get enough wimps in horror films.
He's so excitable when he stabs Tom. Like, that's a big moment for him.
Yeah. And then we get some more horrible misfortune for Burnface Guy. And at this point I wrote in my notes, this is like an 18-rated Home Alone.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those films. That's been kind of a, you know, when people memed on it, you know, like, oh, Home Alone's like a horror movie. And then there's quite a few films in that vein of these, well, it makes sense because, you know, the home invasion is a classic horror trope. And this film definitely plays with some really funny ways of that, like the guy breaking through the window and he gets then stabbed to the door, and, you know, people coming in through the attic, which is creepy. I really like the turn of when the dead Mike becomes Demon Mike.
Yes.
That was really fun. That was a good moment. Again, a great moment of writing where the girlfriend going, oh, it's Mike. He's my boyfriend. He's alive. It's fine. That is a scene that is played out in horror movies, but I then like the natural progression of that, where Phoebe is immediately like, no, we saw him die. We know demons exist. That's a fucking demon.
Yeah. And
then I like that the girlfriend then turns around with a knife and she's like, no, I'm gonna let him in. You back the fuck off. I will kill you, you know, before I accept that Mike's dead. And, you know, I like that it builds a little bit. And that's like, oh, yeah, of course she's going to let him in now because, you know, it makes sense. And it's more satisfying that way.
Yeah, and it's kind of realistic. It's kind of what people, almost like a depiction of what people would want rather than be rational, you know?
Yeah. Again, it's a nice development as well on just Mike, because he's such a minor character, but you know he's a dick.
Yeah, he is.
But then he becomes like a demon dick, because he's just really fucking dickish towards Tom, which makes his death all the more satisfying, because his second death all the more satisfying, because it's not just a demon getting elbow dropped to bloody bits, but it's also Mike.
Mike is a dick, and he deserves elbow dropping.
That scene is so fucking funny when it goes to Phoebe and the girlfriend having that emotional moment because she got bit and she's dying, and it's like, oh, it's an emotional sad death where her like best friend is dying, but you can still in the fucking background hear Tom elbow dropping Mike to death,
which is great.
It's so fucking funny that he just keeps going.
So many elbow drops.
There's nothing. After a point, he was just elbow dropping the ground, which is not good for his own elbow.
No.
And then that is also the really funny moment when Barb and Gil come in, and they have to explain what the fuck just happened.
It's just lots. You know, this film is so silly and so fun. And I think, you know, horror fans, wrestling fans, and comedy fans will all get something out of this.
Exactly, yeah. It's really fun, yeah. It's one of the... It went around the festival circuit. One of the awards it got was, like, best to watch with your friends at a sleepover, or something to that degree. But that is a good definition of this kind of movie. It's one of those just really fun movies that's, like, a good time to watch with friends, because it's just, yeah, it becomes batshittery. It naturally builds to batshittery, where one thing just gets added to another, and by the end of it, I don't think we're going to go into, like, the ending here, but, like, it's pretty crazy. There's some whole ritual stuff going on in the barn. Finally, the wrestling does come back. There's a big wrestling match at the end, which is really fun. There's some combat. There's some really good gory scenes at the end. Yeah, it's a great send off at the end.
I mean, massive spoilers as well. We've said, I feel no guilt about saying this. I was delighted that Burnface Guy survived. Absolutely delighted. That made me just howl at the end. That of all of them, obviously it was going to be Burnface Guy, Home Alone Burnface Guy.
See, that's how much fun I was having with the movie. That I wasn't even checked out to be like, oh, where's Burnface Guy? When's he coming up? I was just watching the movie. I was just enjoying what was happening. And then at the end, I was like, oh yeah, of course he wasn't in the finale.
I want to talk about Gil's death. It was just so naff. And for such a kind of cowardly, comedically cowardly character, to have the naffest death, that was so satisfying. You just got chucked in a portal. See ya.
Yeah, it was funny for what it was. Like, you could hear what was happening to him, and it was definitely not good. It was, like a inferred Hellraiser kind of death. And you know what? Like, this is a low-budget film. We don't know what the budget was. We weren't told what it was. And on Wikipedia, it's still not on there. So that we won't know until the director says. But it's a low-budget film. But, I mean, it looks good. It sounds good.
Oh, it absolutely does.
The actors are good. I absolutely believe that if they had more budget, even like $100 more, then Gil probably would have got like, a fucking head explosion or something. Like, they would have done more gore if they could.
Maybe, yeah.
I recognize that they did a really good job with the restrictions.
Oh, fuck yeah. This film's wonderful. I can't emphasize enough how much I enjoyed this. The good guy wins the fight with a Von Erich claw. Come on.
Yeah, it's just really cool. Like I say, all the fundamentals are there, so it works. It's a movie that works.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I mean, we really rocketed through it, but it was, I guess we didn't want to, I know I definitely didn't want to go into all little details and stuff. So we left the ending. We definitely smashed through it. So there's still surprises left to it.
Honestly, get it watched. If you're a fan of Chucky, you're going to enjoy this. It's the kind of dumbass fucking humour you see in Chucky, and that's gotta be a good thing.
Can't say it enough because they were nice enough to give it to us. Yeah, thanks to Alex and the rest of Screambox for giving this to us. Again, you can find this out now. It did get into select theatres, but it's on digital VOD and streaming. You can get Screambox on Android, Apple TV, Prime Video, Roku, YouTube, Screambox.com. You can find this movie very easily, and I don't think Screambox is hugely expensive, not compared to other ones like Netflix these days. It's like $7, £5, and that's worth it alone just to watch Here for Blood.
Yeah.
And then you can go on there and be like, oh, here's all these other cool movies.
I mean, that's what I did when we looked at Puppet Master. I did a 1-month subscription and absolutely rinsed all the terrible films on the Full Moon subscription. I had it for a couple of months and had a great couple of months. Get your Screambox subscription, watch this film, and then there's bound to be other good films that you can watch with the rest of your month.
Yeah, we listed a bunch right up at the top, and this is one of those films where you could see at the start of the film it was distributed in part by Bloody Disgusting, because they do distribute movies. I follow horror outlets on Twitter. I probably would have known of this movie. I would have seen it on Twitter. But would I have watched this movie otherwise? I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have, because there's so many movies coming out. But I'm glad I got the opportunity to, because if this movie is this good, there's probably other great movies on Screambox that I have no idea even exist.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We got a screener, which we were absolutely over the moon for, but we're not reviewing it well because of that. We're reviewing it well because it was a fun film to watch.
It's not paid sponsorship. We don't get anything from this. We don't even get, like a Screambox free month or anything. No. But, yeah, I'm enthusiastic towards it because, like I just said, I didn't even know this movie really existed until now. And I'm just happy that I got a cool movie out of nowhere.
I'd like a sequel. I think I'd enjoy a sequel.
Yeah, so I did look into the director and writer. The director, Daniel Torres, is working on another horror movie. I'll just look it up. He's writing it. It's not written by James Roberts. It's called Fresh Meat. He seems to be writing it. I don't see James Roberts attached to it. But yeah, both of these people I would like to see because it's a good-looking movie and the dialogue is quite sharp. So I kind of want to keep my eye on these guys. This is still pretty early on in both of their careers. So I want to see what they do next.
Yeah. Well, what a wonderful impromptu episode that was. Something that came totally out of the blue. We are going to finally get round to various things that we've promised, but we absolutely had to jump on this when it landed on our laps, and I'm really glad it did.
Yeah. I mean, Screambox probably don't want me to say this, but we still have the Annabelle episode coming out at the end of February. That is a huge budget mainstream horror movie, and we don't have many good things to say about
it. No, do we?
So, like, yeah, it's like if you like horror movies, but you only watch the big ones, like Annabelle, then really have a look at these indie films on services like Screambox, because there's good movies out there that not enough people are watching.
Agree. So, that's about it for today. Dev, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me over on @AbsoluteTravesty. I am writing reviews again this year, as I usually do. I just recently have a retrospective on Creature of the Black Lagoon. That was a fun movie to revisit. But I've got written reviews out each month, and yeah, check that out if you want.
And if you're looking for me, it's just @MarkAdamsHC on Twitter and Instagram if you want. I'm not very active on Instagram, and I talk about random shit on both of those. You should probably just follow @CHUCKYVISION, let's be honest.
Check us out on @CHUCKYVISION. We do check our DMs on there. We do chat with fans, and we do take listener ideas and all that. Yeah, that would be the best place to get any Chucky updates.
So thank you very much for joining us for this impromptu episode of Chucky Vision. And until next time, wanna play?
Chucky Vision is a podcast brought to you by the We Made This Network.
Follow us on Twitter @ChuckyVision.
Follow the network on Twitter @we_made_this.
The logo was designed by Elliot Marriott.
Our cover art was designed by Amma @Amma's Comet.
And the theme tune was composed by Dark Fantasy Studios.
Wanna play?
Hello everyone, I'm Robert Turnbull, producer and co-host of You Have Been Watching, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the world of British sitcom. I and my co-host Alex Lynch take you on a journey through the weird and wonderful world of British sitcoms, looking at a range of different subjects and different shows, including classics like Fawlty Towers. In the same way as David Brent and Alan Partridge and Victor Meldrew, Basil works best, for me, when he is actually dealing with arseholes. The more forgotten oddities like The Asylum.
I don't know if I was necessarily a fan of it. It was a bit kind of... If I'd seen that on the Paramount Comedy Channel when I hadn't known who any of these people were, I probably wouldn't have necessarily enjoyed it.
And we even have top 10s like favourite sitcom theme tunes, or episodes dedicated to a subject like the quirk of recasting in sitcoms. Weirdly, I feel like the examples that I've been able to find of like properly recasting characters, like bringing new actors in to play the same characters, they tend to be bad sitcoms that didn't last very long. So do please come and give us a listen on the We Made This Network. We're available on all podcast platforms and on Twitter @YHBWPod. So come and give us a follow, give us a listen, send us a comment, and let's all have a laugh.